This is my Mark V Ford Escort, and at the start of this year I gave it a full respray, and it's fair to say it looks pretty good. The paintwork looks factory fresh, we put a nice set of wheels on it, we even put some Recaro interior in the car, and there's still a couple of things that let the car down. And one of those things is this. The engine bay. It looks so outdated and it looks pretty rubbish compared to the rest of the car. Now when I resprayed this car, I painted inside the wings and I painted the front slam panel as well, so this all looks fresh. Obviously the strut towers and the front legs don't look fresh, but we're not too worried about that now. It's more the actual engine itself, because it doesn't look great. And here's a little look at the engine up close. Now the black is actually... now the block of the engine is actually painted this sort of grey colour. It's the sort of same colour as the rocker cover, but I don't think that looks great. So I want to paint this satin black. I've got satin black there for this. And I want to actually paint the rocker cover the same colour as the car, which is Bahama blue. I want to change the colour of the air filter box. It's this same sort of grey, granny colour. I want to paint that black as well. I want to paint the gearbox as well to a nice fresh silver, because you can see it's got stuff all over it. I want to paint as much as possible that we can, but here's the catch. I want to paint the engine in the car. I want to keep everything in there, strip as much off as possible, but just paint it in the car. Now, I know a lot of you will be sitting there, oh, take out the car, it's only a few bolts. But I didn't have an engine crane, I didn't really want to be doing that either. So we're going to be doing it in the car. Obviously, we're not going to get right under the engine in every bit. I just want to get everything covered that you see when you open the bonnet, so it looks a bit more presentable. And I think a lot of the videos on my channel show that you don't need the best equipment and you don't need the best environment to be doing stuff to get great results. So let's get right into this. So the first job on the agenda was to start stripping down parts off the engine and cleaning the engine bay itself. And the first job was to get that huge air filter box out the way. And already, with just taking the airbox off, you can see how much room that's given us to get behind things and around things. And look at the state of that rocker cover, it's so bad. Ew. I could then get on to removing that dull looking heat shield. I also unbolted the coolant bottle as well, because I'd never had that off before, so it was going to be dirty behind it. So I just moved it out of the way so I could give it a good clean. Now that we've got some of the big stuff out of the way on the engine, I'm just going to give it all a general clean right now with a degreaser. Covered up the carb, and I've actually put the cap back on for the rocker cover just to protect that, instead of trying to get a cloth over it or something. So we'll give it all a clean first and then see where we get to. And the bottle of degreaser that I'm using on the engine bay was one that I'd just found in Halfords. I bought it while I was buying the paint for doing this job, and it worked really well. And I don't think it was too badly priced either, which is always a plus. I've pretty much cleaned the whole engine bay. It looks so much better already. Look at all the green pipes and that. Even back here, this is all nice and Bahama blue again. It looks genuinely unreal, and we've not even painted it yet. I'm so much happy with it. So I've stripped a lot of the bits off the car, and I think we're going to get onto sanding and painting now. I want to start with the actual engine itself. Obviously not the rocker cover just now. I want to paint that Bahama blue, but I'll probably do that somewhere else and take it off and do it nicely. I've tried to take the manifold off, it's not coming off. These bolts are properly welded on, and I didn't want to snap them. I'm not wanting to risk that. So I've cleaned the block of the engine down here as well. So we'll get into it as much as possible as we can with the brushes and sand it down and stuff. But because the engine's already painted, it shouldn't need much of a sand. It should just take a little scuff with probably a Scotch-Brite pad, and then we can paint right over it. Because I'm not too bothered with this. It doesn't have to be minted like the paintwork on the outside, because I'm not going to be opening the bonnet as much as you see the outside of the car. So we'll do that. I scuffed down the engine with an array of different sandpapers, but the one I used the most was the red Scotch-Brite pad. And it took me absolutely ages to sand down the engine parts, but with anything in the painting world, preparation is key. I could then give the engine a good clean off and crack open the tin of paint. The paint that I'm using is Halford's high temperature satin black paint, so I'm hoping that it lasts. And with this first coat, I wasn't going too heavy with the paint, because we're not going for a finish here, we're just trying to get a little bit of coverage on there to start it off. one coat of the satin black paint onto the engine. I'm going to leave that to dry. I've gave the gearbox a quick scuff and a clean off. I'm going to paint that with the Hammerite silver. Hopefully that should withstand the heat. I'm not sure, but we can test it out. The car won't be driven until next year anyway, so we'll just leave it and see how it gets on. I've also rubbed down some of these components that are going to go to satin black as well, so we'll get on with that while this is drying. But before we start painting the gearbox, take a quick look at this. A massive 94.3% of you guys watching my videos are not subscribed. That's like most of the audience. So if you aren't subscribed, please consider subscribing. It's free and my goal is to hit 4,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So any help towards that would be brilliant. Right, back to the video. So I'd done the same sort of sanding process on the gearbox. I'd actually scuffed down the gearbox before to make it look a bit more shiny, but it's obviously not going to look bang on. So now we're painting it. And that is one coat of paint on the engine and the gearbox on the Escort. I'm genuinely so happy with how this is going so far. It looks so much better than it did before, and I'm really excited to see what it's like once we get all the rest of the things done as well. So I'm going to leave these to dry now, and then I'll get another coat on both of them. And while they were drying, I could get a couple of coats of primer on the heat shield. I could then start coating up with some fresh silver spray paint. Off camera I managed to get another coat of paint on the engine and gearbox, so now I could get on with painting these little components satin black. I even sanded down and painted most of the bolts for the engine as well. I then put the bolts back into place. And I could refit that heat shield. And this is where we got to by the end of day one. The next morning I got right along to the container and started rubbing down parts like the oil cap and that massive air filter box. I then gave everything a good clean off, and then I could get that aerosol primer back out and start coating the parts up. After the parts were dry, I then sanded them down again, but with some wet and dry sandpaper. Once again, I cleaned off the parts and now they were ready for some black aerosol. With the first coat, I just wanted to spray it lightly over the parts so that the next coat has something to adhere to. Whilst the airbox was drying, I could get on with removing that rusty rocker cover. And look at the state of the rocker cover. It's been like this since we bought the car and it's always bugged me, so I'm glad we're finally sorting this out. I took the rocker cover home and I sanded and sanded and sanded until I could finally clean it off and get ready for some primer. And for cleaning off the rocker cover, I used some water-based degreaser. I'd usually use solvent-based degreaser, but I didn't have any. You might also notice that I'm literally going to be painting the rocker cover on a bin outside, but I bet you'll be surprised with the results that we get. After a good few coats of primer on the rocker cover, I had sanded it down and then I could clean it off again, and now we were ready for the base coat. I still had some leftover base coat from painting the Escort, so it was ideal. I just got it right into the gun and now I could get on with the first coat. And after letting that first coat dry, it was right on with the second coat. I then gave it one final coat just to make sure it was fully covered. And after having a look at the rocker cover under some light, I was pretty happy with it, so it was time for some lacquer. With that first coat, I made sure not to go too heavy with the lacquer because we're painting outside, so it's already cold enough. I don't want any runs. But with that second coat, you see we went a bit heavier. But anyway, here are the results of the rocker cover. So there we have it. I'm genuinely so happy with that. It was literally painted on a bloody dustbin. So it's a couple of hours later and we're back at the container with the colour match rocker cover. Look at how closely a paint match that is to the rest of the car. Really happy with how that came out. Literally painted that on a bin and it's pretty clean. This was pretty much the last piece that we had to paint to get the engine pretty much done. So we'll put this back on, then that means we can put the airbox on and then it's pretty much complete. So let's do it. Right, gasket's refitted to the bottom of the rocker cover. We literally changed that not that long ago, so that should still be alright. And now we can slide this on here. I've actually been waiting for this for ages. I think we're on. Oh my god, that looks so fresh. Right, we'll get the bolts in this now. I cannot wait for this. So the last bit that we have to fit is the freshly painted airbox, but I'm going to fit this off camera and then I'm going to show you the engine bay once it's all done. And after fitting everything back to the engine, here's how it looked when it was done. So that is how it's looking now. I'm genuinely so impressed with how it's came out and I'm really happy with it. In total this cost me about £37 to do, so it's really budget friendly, and I know there's some bits that still look a bit tatty, but we can always fix them in the future. So if there's any of you guys out there that are a bit hesitant to try something new, I'd say just give it a bash because this has turned out really well. I hope you guys took something from this video or just enjoyed the video. A reminder that I'm trying to hit 4,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so any help towards that would be smashing. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. Please like this video, comment down below and subscribe to the channel if you're new or you're watching my videos and you're not subscribed. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.